My cousin won't talk to me or the rest of the family after he found out that he was left out of our grandma's will. My grandmother passed away a year ago and left us all a chunk of money. 7 cousins total got like $45,000 each from her will. My cousin Matt didn't get any. I didn't know about this at all. I just knew what I got and other cousins confirmed the amount. Matt and my grandmother were very close, and we figured he would get her house as he was helping her a lot at the end of her life, and he was the only one still living at home with my aunt. But he wasn't given anything, and sadly the reason for that was that Matt is biracial while me and the other 6 are not. Nearing the end of her life, he told me that sometimes felt like he wasn't a grandson but hired help only. My grandma used to make some messed up comments about his skin color and how she didn't really like his mother because she felt like she trapped her son, but she always said she loved Matt dearly. Anyway, we kind of found out a couple of months after my grandma passed that we are getting some money, and we were talking about it at a family get-together. We have had these almost every 2 weeks since we were kids at my grandma's house. We'd all just chill in the basement playing ping pong or whatever and just chill. During the hangout, Matt found out he didn't get any, to which we were shocked. We decided to just split that evenly in 8 ways. Like we would all chip in like 5.5K each and give it to him as it's rightfully his. He didn't like that idea. He told us all to go away and keep our charity to ourselves. He just stopped talking to us and stopped showing up to family gatherings. We all stopped as well since he was kind of the glue, and we all felt guilty as he was left out of the will. He hasn't spoken to us in over 6 months, and I don't know what to do. I know he's hurt, but how do we approach him about this? He's also one of my closest friends and I just miss him. My mom said to give him some space, but how much longer? His mom reached out to me asking me to talk to him because he refuses to go out anymore and that he might have lost his job. Any tips on how to approach him? My larger reason for this post is how can we approach him? I think he's deeply hurt, won't talk to us or his friends, and his mom is worried that he's become a shut-in and may have lost his job. I want to stop his possible spiraling. I think I'm just ranting because time is the only solution, I guess. All you can do besides offering some money is tell him he's family and he always will be. A few questions first. Did he always feel like he was not part of the family? Did you guys offer the money in front of everyone? I think your mom is correct. You just have to give him some space. Pool the funds and send him the check for his equal share with a note explaining that you appreciate that this is a very painful time in his life and you will all be there when he is ready. Am I the antagonist for saying I don't feel comfortable leaving my daughter with my husband? Our dear daughter, 3 months old, has bad reflux, so after her bottle, which takes about 30 minutes, we need to keep her upright for 30 minutes to help keep it down. It can be tough when we are tired. I, 37 female, feed her most of her bottles and am up with her during the night as I am on maternity leave. My dear husband, 42 male, does some of the feeds after work and during the night when he is off. There have been a few occasions I suspected that my dear husband might have fallen asleep holding our dear daughter after he has fed her at night. This is because it wouldn't make sense the time he started her feed to when he said he put her down. I asked him and he said he didn't fall asleep holding her. I then walk in on him asleep in the chair holding our dear daughter. Luckily she was okay, but with how she was positioned, she could have rolled out of his arms. I tried to be understanding as my dear husband is working, and even though we try not to wake him at night, he does get disturbed. So I calmly said to him that I understand he is tired, but there is a risk that when he is asleep and holding her, he could accidentally suffocate her or she could roll out of his arms. I suggested that if he felt tired or was catching himself falling asleep, he needed to get me or put her down. My dear husband downplayed the situation, so I asked him not to belittle what I was saying and reconfirmed what I felt he should do. I couldn't shake the horrible feeling you get with these things, so on his next day off, I didn't wake him to do the feeds he normally would have done. I was hoping that he then wouldn't be as tired. I also made sure I did the really early late bottles from then on. Despite this, a few days later, I walk in on him asleep with her in the chair again. I made sure dear daughter was okay and then woke him up. He denied being asleep even though it was clear he was. I asked him to put our dear daughter in her crib, and once he had, I stressed the dangers again of him falling asleep holding her. This time he was arguing and saying that how he had her in his arms was fine and that he would have woken up had she moved. He finally said he would put her down if he felt tired, but it felt like he was just telling me what I wanted to hear. I then broke down in tears at the situation and said I couldn't trust him to stay awake when feeding holding her and didn't feel comfortable leaving her with him. I was so tired from not having him help with the night feeds waking when he was last off that it probably didn't help my state of mind, and I hadn't been well. Dear husband said he wasn't going to talk to me when I was being like that. Now I don't know what to do with the feeding, as I have said I don't trust him to do it, but longer term not sharing it will be exhausting, and I have started canceling plans if it means leaving her with him over a feed. So am I the antagonist for having a go at him for falling asleep with our dear daughter and then stating that I didn't want to leave her with him? Am I the antagonist for taking over all of her bottle feeding, and am I overreacting? Not the antagonist. It's important to prioritize your daughter's safety over pride. I suggest using a safe seat to prop your daughter up during feeding and setting an alarm to prevent falling asleep. There are documented cases of serious harm resulting from parents falling asleep while feeding their babies. Share articles to help your husband understand the seriousness of the risk and continue taking precautions to keep your daughter safe and healthy. Am I the antagonist that I don't want my BF to go to another country on vacation with his female coworker? Am I the asshole? My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over 2 years. Lately, he has been talking about traveling and going on this trip to South America with his coworkers. Yes, coworkers. It has been an idea for about 2 weeks, maybe less. He said his coworkers have family there that could show him around and even give him a place to stay in the meantime. Today he had asked if he should say forget it and book the ticket because it's super cheap and he also wouldn't have to worry about finances for a place to stay. I said, I mean, why not then? I asked who he would be going with. He said, my coworker. Let's go with Becca, obviously a woman's name. I proceeded to ask how old she was and he said she is 30-ish. He is 27 and I am 26 for the record. I immediately felt uncomfortable for one. I have never met a coworker with that name, and he has been working there for about a year, which means I have been at his workplace numerous times. I also am seeing it as, they must be pretty close, especially considering meeting up with someone overseas and being so gracious to offer a place to stay, which, he said they wouldn't be staying together, that she would just be showing him around. I am also looking at it from a woman's perspective. I would never invite a male coworker to a vacation overseas or vacation period, no matter how long I have been working with them, especially alone. You never know someone's true intention. That is just my opinion and view on it. I am not speaking for all women. I told him I am uncomfortable with it and he immediately got defensive and said I am not supporting his first international trip alone, and to not look at it that way, that it's strictly platonic. Also mentioned that I have not made it a priority to travel, which I do not get paid well and also have a child, and a bunch of expenses that I am just trying to keep myself above water, so that is why traveling has not been my priority right now. Keywords. Right now, I don't know. I am very uncomfortable with it, and yes, I feel bad for holding him back from traveling or not supporting his trip. He has been wanting to travel for a while now. I don't want to control his life, but I do know if the roles were reversed, he would be very uncomfortable with it as well. I get yearning to travel. I yearn to travel as well, but this is very uncomfortable for me. I don't know, am I the asshole? I want to clarify that apparently she would already be there, and he would meet up with her. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I also want to add that he has not made a decision yet. Not the antagonist for asking him where he plans to live when he returns, especially since he's going alone on an international vacation with a woman you've never heard of. Your intuition is telling you something, and it's valid to be upset. I wouldn't let my wife go on vacation with another man either, and that doesn't make us insecure or whatever. Am I the antagonist for not letting my wife stay home, even though I promised her? We have been married for about 5 years. I have told my wife in the past that once I could afford it, I wouldn't mind if she stayed home and had a more relaxed life while I took care of us financially. I do still agree with that, but post-COVID inflation along with some career setbacks for me, trouble finding a job out of college, layoffs, have made this a more difficult milestone than I originally expected, as well as additional financial knowledge and experience that I didn't have earlier in our relationship. Things have improved as of late, with a raise and a promotion at my current company. I am still not where I expected to be by now, but I am headed in the right direction. I remarked to my wife that I was now making enough to cover our needs in case something happened with her job, so we could breathe a little easier. She smiled and said that she would give them her notice next week. I was confused and asked her why. She said, well, you told me I could stay home once we could afford it. We can now. I kind of laughed awkwardly and clarified. I meant that I could afford food, mortgage, utilities, the basics, not anything else. Right, that's all we need. We can afford me not working anymore. This is our big disagreement. To her, and probably many others, afford simply means being able to pay the bills day to day. Are the lights on? Is there food in the pantry? Are we being foreclosed? All good then. To me, afford means being truly sustainable in the long term, covering needs easily with enough leftover to have fun, take vacations, save for emergencies, invest for retirement, etc. We're about there now with both of us working, but for me to cover all of that, I would need to earn about twice what I do currently. I explained this to her and laid out the numbers of when she would be able to stay home. She's not happy. She thinks I'm being too conservative and money-centric. I think she's being short-sighted and, frankly, ignorant of current economic conditions. To be fair, I have made it easy for her to be ignorant. She has not paid a bill, done taxes, or gone to the grocery store in 5 years. She's joined on all of our accounts and I keep fairly comprehensive budgets and expenses in a shared Google Sheet. She just chooses not to look at them. She said that she's ready to be done working soon and that I promised her. I said that her getting to stay home wasn't an oath in court. It was just something I said I would be okay with if it made sense. I'd love to double my salary soon. If it happens, great. But it is by no means guaranteed, and I'm not going to stress myself out too much to do her this favor. And it absolutely would be a favor. Her taking care of our small suburban home with no kids would essentially mean she was retired early. I'd feel good to do that for my wife, but this entitled behavior has me second-guessing it entirely. Am I the asshole? not the antagonist for taking control of the financial situation and making sure your wife is educated on it. You're right to be concerned about the lack of knowledge she has about your finances, especially if you're both in your late 20s and she expects early retirement. It's important for her to understand the importance of being financially aware and prepared, especially in case of emergencies like a catastrophic illness. A trial run of living on just your income for 3 months and involving her in managing bills and expenses could be a good way to show her the reality of the situation. Am I the antagonist for giving my friend $2,000 worth of wood as in food to my dad? My father is a stereotypical white boomer man. He believes that as the man of the house, everything belongs to him. He likes to remind my mother that she would be nothing without him and is dependent on his generosity. My mother has a giant tortoise named Duncan that she rescued several years ago. Mother does all of the daily care while I built the enclosure and house for her. It took me a few months and over $2,000 in supplies to get Duncan a suitable habitat. At the time, we agreed that the wood and supplies belonged to me, as I bought all of it and did all the work to design and build the house. About a year ago, I moved into an apartment. I had talked with my parents, and they agreed that when I got my own house, I would take Duncan and her house pen, and she would become my tortoise. Recently, Mother has been having health issues, so Duncan will have to be rehomed since I can't keep her in an apartment. I talked to one of my friends who owns her own home, and she would love to take Duncan. She has a fenced-in yard, so she won't need any of the wood, just the house and Duncan. Mother and I were on board with this idea, and we thought that Father would store the wood until I had my own house. Well, the other day my mother overheard my father talking about all the stuff he was going to build with my wood. He never asked me, never asked my mother, didn't say a word to either of us. He was just going to take it. She asked him about it later, and he just waved her off and said it was none of her business. Since I left it on his property, obviously I don't want it so he can do whatever with it. She mentioned how much I paid for it, and he said that she could write me a check. Not him and his money, but Mother and her meager savings. She only gets a few $100s of Social Security a month, and he expects her to use all of it to pay me off so he can use my wood. Now I don't need the wood, and I can't use it. If he had asked, I'd be happy to let him use it, and I wouldn't have asked for money either. But because of how rude and entitled he is being, I reached out to my friend and told her that I'll give her the wood too, and she can use it for whatever she wants. She accepted but said that she probably won't use it. My father caught wind that I'm planning on moving my stuff without his permission, and he is pissed. It's not his stuff, it's not his tortoise, he has no involvement in this entire situation. But he wants to dictate the whole thing, and he is very upset that Mother and I made plans without consulting him. Moving that much wood would require renting a truck and getting several people's help. My friend doesn't need the wood, and I don't either, so I'm going to be spending more money and more time just to make sure my father doesn't get his way for once. Is that too petty? Should I just let him have the wood? If you can find a woodworkers group on Facebook or the like, or even a free to good home group, you'll find plenty of people willing to show up with a truck and take it off your hands. I tried to explain to my Game-Addict BF why I wouldn't want kids with him. I, female 35, am in a relationship with a man, male 42, since 10 years. He never proposed marriage because he says we have problems, but he and his family always bring up the child argument. His family pushes how great of a father he would be because they saw him play with his young cousin, but my gut tells me otherwise. I never really had the feeling I want a child because it is a huge responsibility, and I don't find myself fit for the task. I struggle sometimes with depression, anxiety. I was always clear about this, but he sometimes tells me in a guilt-tripping way that we can't have a child because of me. I don't understand how he can imagine having a child with his lifestyle. He is a programmer who is also video and board game obsessed. I use the term obsessed because he spends daily at least 6, weekends could happen even 8, 12 hours of playing. I know in the coding breaks he also does research of new games, testing, purchasing them, etc. If I tell him I think it is not healthy, his answer is, he likes to spend time with his friends, online, and chit-chat with them every single day about games. He doesn't plan any program with me. He doesn't have even ideas. He doesn't have any other interests. I told him let's start gym together because he gained a significant amount of weight due to the chips and junk food he eats while gaming, and I need also some workout myself, but of course my attempt failed. I do exercises meanwhile he watches me or just playing some games. My communication is clear. I've told him multiple times he could talk to me, express his feelings about this, or if it is more comfortable he could talk to a coach therapist. But he doesn't see any problems. For him this mother-child situation is perfectly fine. I cook for him, I clean for him, and when he is done eating he goes back to play. The only common activity he proposes is watch something together. I can't rely on him when my depression takes over. I am completely alone with it because he only watches me sink into my own darkness on the sofa. He doesn't invite me out or try to cheer me up. With all this, he believes he is completely capable of being a good father and take all the responsibility of a child. I don't think a male who didn't reach yet emotional adulthood could be a father figure to a child. In fact, I believe I would be left alone with the child-related problems, and he would just play games when it is too much for him, because I've never seen him sacrifice his comfort for something greater. I explained to him all this, but he doesn't understand. He says why he would act already as if he has a child when he doesn't. What I mean is, if I see someone completely incapable to organize his days, time, habits, etc., I don't think he would then start to change those things when there is a crying newborn. I also can't believe he would help me when I am dead tired. So how would you help to this person to understand he may need help? Or shall I just leave this relationship? Why are you with this guy at all if he can't commit to a marriage because of problems, but thinks he's stable and mature enough to have kids together? Pardon my bluntness, but he sounds like a straight idiot. You've listed exactly 0 redeeming qualities. Are you sure you wouldn't be happier if you left this relationship? This is who he is, and he isn't changing for you or anyone. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.